All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today we'll be going over how do you officiate Unified Bocce. My name is Lauren Salter. I'm our Senior Director of Unified Champion Schools for Special Olympics Pennsylvania. And also joining me today and being my technical assistant is Ashley Herr, our Sport and UCS Director for the Greater Philadelphia region. So what we're going to take you through today is a presentation on the game itself. If you want to go ahead and slide through the deck there, Ashley, that'd be great. Uh, we're going to take you through the game itself, the ins and outs of like how you can prepare and be ready to officiate. We'll talk about some special needs situations and then also the requirements of our coaches as well. And we'll make sure that we answer all of your questions. Bocce is a really awesome game. You're going to have a fantastic time officiating it. If you are standing in because you are in the process of recruiting some officials, thank you also for being here as well. This presentation will be available to you following this, so we'll upload it to YouTube and send a link to all of our schools. And then we'll also make sure that the slide deck is available as well. So you've got all the resources available that we will cover today. So you are more than welcome to take super diligent notes throughout the presentation. Just drop in your questions into the chat. We'll make sure that we provide all of this to you as well. Much of what we will also provide or go through will also be found in our handy dandy coaches guide that every school has received at this point. And if you have not received it, please let your liaison know. And we also will have this posted and do have it posted on our website as well. So want to make sure that this information is known far and wide, and we certainly don't want to hoard any of it. So please ask questions. I ask that during the presentation itself, if you can just keep yourself muted, but drop any and all questions you may have here in that chat, and we'll roll through, pun intended, through each of the slides as we work through how do you officiate bocce. It'll only take about 45 minutes, and then we'll leave some room for some questions as well. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let's just chat a little bit about the game itself. So the events that we offer is Unified Bocce, and the teams are composed of teams of 8 active participants on a game day. So we have this year, and it's new, so I want to make sure everybody feels comfortable with it and is aware of it. We have expanded our roster limitations for this year. So in previous years, it was 8, and that was it. That's all you could have on your roster. You still can only have 8 people play in a given day. Okay, so when they hand in their lineups, they will put in for 8 people. It'll be on their Google Sheets that they receive prior to competition. So they have to put that in there. That's the maximum amount of team members that can participate that day. So if they're playing in multiple games, so everybody play multiple games there, then the rosters cannot switch between those 2 games. Okay. So they can't just plug in a substitute for game 2. They have to just declare for that whole day who's going to be active. So that maximum is 8 team members. They have to be in a proportionality of 5 athletes and 3 partners at a minimum of 60-40 in either direction. And just so everybody's on the same page here, partner means an individual or a student without an intellectual disability. And as we're going through here and we're talking about athletes, we are tagging those folks that are our special education students or students with intellectual disabilities. The minimum for your game day roster. So if a school rolls up and they only have 4 people, they've got 2 athletes and 2 partners, good to go, right? So we want to make sure that we have that minimum there. If they roll up and they've got 4, but they've got 3 of partners or 3 athletes and 1 of the other, they technically can still roll, but the game will count as a forfeit. So it will not count as a legal game. It'll count as a forfeit, but they can still roll if the teams both agree to do so. We covered this part on our competition management call on Tuesday, that if a coach and an athletic director are aware that they're in that type of situation, that they'll communicate in advance. So everybody's in the know when they get there and it's not a surprise to anybody. Okay, so they already made that determination ahead of time of how they want to handle it. So you shouldn't have to sort that out too much. Okay. So minimum 2 and 2, maximum of 8 total. All right. I'm not gonna actually play through the training video itself. However, I do want to reference it as a really good tool. It will lay out all of the different pieces of what a live action game looks like. So if we have some time at the end, I will pull it back and show you some snippets here. But I highly advise you to watch that video in advance of officiating for the first time. We'll cover some of the rules updates in this slide deck presentation as we go through here. But what you're looking for, we've got 2 official types that are going to appear on a court. There's the head official. That head official must be an adult. Okay, so they are in charge of managing everything throughout the competition. So they're watching the time, they're working with the scoreboard, score folks, they are connecting with the coaches. So they're the lead for that court. Okay. So they're managing that. There's also one line judge or a line official that is also on a court. And that individual will move from end to end at that service line. And we'll have some diagrams that are coming up here. And it is their job to declare, is there a foot foul? Is there some other sort of violation that is happening? This person can be a student. They can be an adult or they can be a student. If they are going to be a student, I highly advise you just to check in with them, make sure that they're up on the rules and that they feel comfortable, should they need to call a foul. And be able to communicate with that head official what is needed. Okay. Not everybody is comfortable calling a foul, whether it's a foul on a peer or if it's a foul on an athlete. They may tend to look the other way. So if you're going to have a student be a line judge, please just make sure that they're confident and okay with calling a foul should they need to. We don't see a ton of them, but they need to know that it could happen. All right, just a little bit more in depth here for those line officials, right? So they're going to be in charge between the head official and the line official determining who's going to manage the measuring tape. So if a measure should happen, they're going to help measure those. They're calling the foot fouls. They're going to declare if somebody rolled the wrong colored ball. They're going to make sure that folks are not rolling out of turn. So the head official will determine, hey, red roll. If green jumps up and they roll instead because they're really ambitious, that line judge is gonna let that head official know that we had the wrong color roll. In most cases, both of those officials are going to know real quick that the wrong ball just came coming down their way. They're going to assist with the measurements. They are going to be on the end of the tape. The head official will have the head of the measuring tape and will pivot around the polina. Okay. Again, this can be an adult or a student, but they can't be a student that's on a roster. So if there is an alternate listed on the roster, it cannot be that individual that is serving as a line official. Okay. Your chief or your head official, they're in charge. They get the fancy stuff. So they are going to get your paddle and the coin. They're in charge of that coin flip. This person is the adult. Has to be an adult on the court. They're going to make the calls who is in, making the calls for who are the measures, announcing the scores, responding to timeouts, responding to the needs of coaches or the timetable, and then also making any measures. So they're in charge of calling the measurement. So they are going to have the business end of the measuring tape as they rotate around. Okay. They must be loud. Let them be confident. Sometimes folks officiating for the first time, like, hey man, I haven't really done this before. I'm not sure. That video will help them a lot. And I'll say that also coming to one of your team's bocce practices will also help. Just seeing the game be played really helps make a lot more sense to you to see the court and see the bocce balls be rolled and get a rhythm for the game prior to doing it for the first time and feeling it in real time. Next slide here, Ash. All right, let's talk about your gear. We got some fancy stuff for you as officials. Right, so what we will ask for you to do, so every school has been allowed and permitted to order 4 official shirts each year. So every school has these official shirts. If you're officiating, you should be wearing this shirt. This goes for the head judge, this goes for the line judge, right? So everybody in an official capacity should look the same. They're wearing that shirt. They should be wearing black pants and sneakers. Please don't roll up in jeans. You're not going to see the basketball official that shows up to your varsity game show up in jeans. So think of it in that same respect of white top, that's provided, your black pants, your sneakers. The school will provide to you as well your handy dandy paddle that is red on one side, green on the other side. That's going to help you indicate whose turn it is to roll. A coin of any denomination that they have handy to do the coin flip, and then also the measuring tape. These are what they have pictured here is similar to what has been supplied to every school. And then that will be your gear pack. Some other things that are going to come into play for you is you're going to see and probably hear some general feelings around some bocce balls. So in the game of bocce, the bocce balls that we use are an indoor set. So a little bit different than if your experience has been in a recreational outdoor setting on the beach on vacation type of deal. They are a rubberized, softer ball, similar size, similar weight, and they are gel filled. So four of them will be red for one team, four of them will be green for the other team. And you will also see a small yellow ball in most cases as the Polina. There are some schools that do have, excuse me, the coveted blue Polina. In most cases, those schools that have that blue Polina are because they had or have an individual on their team that has a visual impairment. So that blue Polina stands out better on the yellow of the floor. Okay, so there are very few of the blue Polinas in existence. They are an endangered species among the bocce Polinas. If a school should need a blue Polina, they should reach out to me directly. So I am the keeper of blue Polinas. And I think there is all of three of them. So definitely just as need. And we'll go over some of the additional ways that we can support our students that have visual impairment during a game as well. All right, these are non-toxic gel-filled bocce balls. They're super easy to clean. If you go into a gym and the gym floor hasn't been cleaned, these will pick up any piece of dirt that is laying on them. So they are magnets. They can be cleaned off with just a little bit of soap and water. Just let them dry out. Don't apply heat. Bad things happen. Okay, so rules of the road for the bocce balls. If they feel, or a coach or a player says that they don't quite feel firm and they're not rolling quite right, a tiny puff of air, one or two, should assist with that, right? If liquid comes out of it, you done too much, okay? So we want to just add just a little bit, and that should really help. As a heads up, because I don't want it to be a surprise to anybody, we did have some instances where we had some issues with some bocce balls last year. We have done our best to swap them out and put in new bocce balls for those schools that have requested them. So should something pop up, those schools will let us know. But that is what you can do in real time in your specific instance as an official. All right, let's talk a little bit about the play area here. We've got this diagram, and you'll see our courts are 60 feet long by 12 feet wide, and we'll have two service lines. So right around these black areas here, you'll see some service lines, the solid red lines here. And then you'll see at the service line is the line official. They stand right over that cone. So they are honed in on that line, watching for those foot faults. Foot on, okay. Foot over is bad. Even a little tiny bit of the toe. That's what that line judge is looking for. And then at that midpoint, between that midpoint and that other area, that we've got labeled as that play area here, that's where that head official is going to be. They're going to move with the Polina and just where they're comfortable with that. Okay, so they can really get a good read if a measure is going to be needed or not. So they don't have to be glued to one specific spot. Feel free to kind of move with where the Polina goes so you have a good view on what that whole layout of the bocce balls and the Polina looks like at any given time during the game. You have the best view as the head official of what measures need to happen and what measures don't need to happen. Okay. Right, here's some terms that we will go over as we shake through our presentation here. An in ball is considered the bocce ball that is closest to our Polina. An out ball is furthest from the Polina. A ball that is in contention, so that would be multiple of them. So two of the colored bocce balls that are in contention, that they are the closest to the Polina that are going to be measured for points. So let's see who's going to beat who out. A foul is just a rule infraction or a penalty. A frame is the time period of which we roll all 8 bocce balls. So after Ashley rolls all her 4 red and I roll all my 4 green, that completes a frame. The bocce balls will end up at the opposite end after we declare the score, and then we start the whole process on a new frame on the way back. Okay. The winner is, I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to anybody, but it's the one that comes out on top. But the team that reaches 16 points or has the highest score after 30 minutes. So we're playing the 16 points or 30 minutes, whichever happens first. 99.9% of time, it's going to be the 30 minutes. Very few times in 6 years have I ever seen a 16-point game. I think it's happened twice. We had 589 individual competitions last year, and it happened like 4 times total across all 600 of them. Not common. So winner is who is on top after that point allotment or that time, and the game itself is the time it takes to roll the frames to declare the winner, right? And I'll say it, and I'm going to say it multiple times through here so everybody remembers. No game, however, will end in a tie. So we say that 30 minutes, and if after 30 minutes and we've ended the frames, Ashley has 4 points and I have 4 points, the game is not done. We're going to have to play one more frame so we can determine who the winner of that individual game is. No ties in bocce. All right, so let's start talking about what does the flow of the game look like, right? So when we start a game, every game is going to start in a coin toss. So the announcer itself will call for the captains to come into the center of that, either the service box or at center court, and then we're going to have the visiting team call the toss. All right, so flip the coin, they declare it. The winner gets to do a couple of things. So they immediately get possession of the Polina, so they get to roll first, and they get to choose which color bocce balls their team will be rolling, right? So they will get to do that. Either after that, the teammate will roll the Polina, and then they will also roll the first color bocce ball, okay? So when they roll that Polina, this Polina must land between the 30-foot line and the 50-foot line. That'll be marked on your court there. It cannot roll past the 50-foot line. Once it does that, it's already gone too far. But we need it to land between that 30 and the 50. We're going to get into what happens if it doesn't, Lauren. We'll definitely cover that, I promise. And then if that Polina lands within 1 foot of the rail, so that's the side, the PVC courts, if it lands within a foot of the rail, you can use your foot and you just move it 1 foot away from the rail. That's the only time that you'll move it away from the rail, because after that, game on. They're chasing a Polina after that point of wherever it goes is where they want to put those bocce balls. We're just trying to eliminate the initial just pile up at the very beginning of that frame. Right after the Polina or bocce is rolled, you got to wait until everything has come to a complete stop before announcing which color is up to roll next. Sometimes it will look like it's one way, and then in the last seconds, it might take a little bit more of a roll. So please wait until everything comes to a complete stop before you declare who's going to roll next. There are some interesting floors out there, and those bocce balls will do some interesting things. You may see some little fun curvatures. And so be safe on it. Wait till everything stops. then it'll be good to go ahead and either determine, do you need a measure, or can you go ahead, you can very clearly see who is up and who needs to go next. And just for clarity, whoever is in is not who's going to roll. Okay, so if I have the in ball, my green ball is closer, it will be Ashley's turn to roll. Whoever is furthest away will always roll, unless they're out of bocce balls. Then we don't have any other choices. Bocce 101, the color of the paddle will always be the color that's up to roll. So we use a traditional ping pong paddle. It's red on one side, green on the other, a good visual cue for our participants of who is up. So we're always going to give that visual and also do that verbal cue of red is in, green is your roll. And we're making sure that we're showing the green. So the up is who is going to roll there. So the paddles that you may see at your schools may be slightly different from each other. It might be a ping pong table paddle, better not be a whole table, but a ping pong paddle. It could be a piece of construction paper, green and red, as long as we have that visual cue so we can let our players know who is going to be up, okay? All right, so here's how we're starting into the games, and we've got our handy dandy diagram here. So as we're starting a game and that person wins they win the Polina, they're getting ready to roll. They roll that Polina, and if they are successful, that same player is going to roll the first bocce ball. If they're not successful, oh, sorry, I misread that entirely. So I thought I had typed it wrong in there. So the winning team's going to get 3 tries to get that Polina in play, right? So if in those 3 attempts that they are able to place it between, actually, if you can use your cursor, because that's what's showing here, can put it in that, where it says that 40-foot line, they're going to place it in this area. That's the area of play. They're good to go. They're going to roll the next bocce ball, okay? If they're not successful, the other team is going to get 1 try. And then if that team is successful, the original player is still going to roll the first bocce ball. So it looks a little funky on here. So I'm going to use it in an Ashley's team versus my team type of situation. So I've tried to roll this Polina 3 times, rolled it too light the first time, rolled it too hard the third time. And I don't know what I did with the third one. I tossed it out of the court, but I was not successful in those 3 rolls. So after that, the Polina goes to Ashley's team. Ashley gets 1 try. And Ashley does not put it in the quarter. And then after that, so we've now tried 4 times to place this Polina on the court. After those attempts, you as an official are going to take this Polina and you're going to put it in the center of that 40-foot line. Regardless of who ends up placing the Polina, the person that originally started with it is who rolls the first bocce ball, no matter what. Okay. So that's the big takeaway. We'll try up to 4 times before you get to put it on there. But regardless, whoever started with the Polina first, that same player is the same player that is going to roll the first color bocce ball. Then we're off and rolling. So once we get to that, we are chasing this Polina around. So after that first bocce ball is rolled, so we're going to use red. Red is now in. Okay, so they are the closest ball. Didn't grab all my bocce balls off to the side of me. That ball is now in. So now it is green's turn to roll, and they are trying to become the in ball. And they will continue to roll until they are the in ball, or they are closer than that red ball. Okay. So they can have up to all 4 rolls. And then at that point, that red team is now going to roll until they are the in ball. And they've rolled the rest of their 3 balls. They rotate that back and forth until all 8 bocce balls have been rolled. And then at that point, we're going to do some measures and determine some points. All right. So as they're going through that rolling order, your line official is going to be really important in paying attention who is rolling. The head official is just as important because they're going to be watching the paddle as they're putting that up. Each team member rolls 1 bocce ball. Doesn't matter the order. And the order can change every time that they roll. That does not matter at all. The big thing here is that every member on that active end must roll one bocce ball. If somebody has an issue and can't roll and they need to step away and it was their turn, or they are refusing to stand up, somebody can't sub in for them. That their turn is their turn. Okay. So that does not go away. And the team member that rolls the Polina must roll the first color bocce ball. So if they're first in the frame and they're rolling the Polina, they roll it, they set it, and they immediately get to roll their color bocce ball after that. All right, so what are you looking for a legal roll? So it can look a few different ways as they're rolling these bocce balls. They can roll, pretty much everything is legal. It can be overhand or it can be underhand, but it's got to be below the waist. So we can avoid this launch that can happen. We want to see that release happen below the waist, keeping it low. We have gone through this with all of our coaches as well, is that more of a bowling motion is what we're trying to teach our athletes here. We want to keep it low. If it's above the waist, it's a foul. Please call it, because we want to shut it down, use it as a teaching moment, and make sure that they're going to be rolling correctly next time. So in our legal rolls, we are looking at saying they can stand, they can sit in a chair, they can sit in a chair with a ramp, they can be kneeling and pushing. And by kneeling, they can be on one knee, they can be on two knees, they can be in a crouch position, they can be using a walker. They cannot be sitting bottom on the ground. It's not a legal rule. They can't sit in a chair. If they require a chair, to me, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to get in and out of a chair than it would be to get up and down off the ground. So we want to make sure they are in any of these legal positions. They're not on their bottoms and it's being released below the waist. Okay. The only other unique position I have seen some folks come into is a starfish on the ground type of situation, literally Superman, and then pushing from their face. Also not legal, my friends. Okay, so think more of a bowling type of position unless they need some other support. Okay. All right, fouls can be called by either official. If you see it, call it. See something, say something on our fouls. Right. So let's talk about some of our fouls. What happens if any of these fouls occur? So if a ball is going to be released above the waist, below the waist, we're good. Above the waist, the official is going to try to stop the ball. So you're going to Spider-Man in there. If you can stop the ball, you're going to stop the ball. If you can't, and the ball hits other balls in the contention, that frame is going to now be null and void. Okay. So releases up, bottoms up, hits other balls that are in the court, frame doesn't count anymore. Okay, so we clear everything out and we move it. If that bocce ball misses all those bocce balls, we're just going to move it from the court and set it outside. Okay, that's now a dead ball, and we're going to remove it. Okay, they don't get a re-roll. It's done. That turn has been expired at that point in time. Okay, we'll let them know what happened. Say foul, released it above the waist, remove it from the court, and carry on. Then that next person will roll. Foot fouls. All right. Super duper easy on here, right? Uh, on the line, good. Over the line, bad. Just like track and field. Okay. Uh, even if it's a little bit, over is over, on is on, in front is front. Okay. Be really black and white on these. So it's not wishy-washy or anything. It's just very objective. You're either on the line or you're over the line. It is what it is. So again, if you can stop the ball, remove it from the court. It's dead ball. That turn is lost. If you can't stop the ball, it hits the balls back in contention. Can you put them back? If you can, go ahead and continue the frame. I don't like it. I'll be really honest with that, because I think it's really subjective of, did those balls go exactly where they were? If you can't put them where they went and you don't have that confidence, call it null and void. Okay. Then the team that originally had possession of the Polina at the start of that frame will start the new frame at the opposite end of the court, and we'll start a new frame there. Okay. Again, if it misses any of the bocce balls on the court after that foot foul, again, move it, set it outside. That turn is now done. All right, so what happens if they roll a wrong color ball? You're going to see some trends here and what we're doing, my friends, right? So if the official attempts to stop the ball, if they can, they'll return it to they'll return it to the other team, and they'll take away the ball from the team that has fouled. So if I'm rolling green and I jump up and I grab one of Ashley's red bocce balls and I toss it down the court, if you as official can grab it, you're going to go return that to Ashley. You're going to take one of my green ones away and my turn is done. Okay. If you can't stop that wrong color ball that's raging down the court and it hits other balls in contention, again, can you put them back in place with confidence? If you can, go for it. If you cannot, call the frame null and void. Again, we'll start a new frame at the opposite end. And if it misses all the bocce balls in the court, you're going to return that bocce ball to the team, and you're going to take away the ball from me that had that fault. Next. So what happens if you trip over some bocce balls on the court? It can happen. One, please be careful moving around the court. That 2 inches of PVC jumps out and bites some people, something terrible. I see more people trip over 2 inches of PVC in my lifetime than I care to admit. So you're in a position where you're trying to really focus, just pay attention where you're at and try to be careful because it is easy to trip over the court. So should you happen to move some bocce balls on the court accidentally, you're measuring, you bump one and it slides away from you. If you can put it back, continue the frame. But if you can't, just call it null and void. Hey, my bad. I'm sorry. I hit that. I can't in confidence put it back where it went. We're going to start anew on the other end. Okay. The coach may have a few issues with that, depending on where they are at score wise. They're not going to be happy with it. So I'm not going to pretend that they will be. The fairest way is like, if you cannot in confidence put them back, please just start a new frame, because that ultimately is the fairest way. That they'll be a little bit frustrated if they've got 3 balls closest to that Polina and you bump something and you're not sure where it goes. So again, this doesn't happen very often. That would be your protocol. Should it happen though, just be careful. Again, don't trip over PVC. All right, let's talk about points. So this is the easiest math that I've done in a long time. And Ashley knows I do not like to math. The math does not math for me very often, but mathing with bocce is simple, my friends. So at the end of each frame, one team is awarded points. We're not playing cornhole where we have to do some mathing to figure out how many points, who gets what. One team scores. So you're at the end of the frame, you're going to measure the closest ball to the Polina. So say it's red, and you check which ball is the next closest. If that one is red, you're going to go to the next closest until you find a green ball. Okay. Then however many of those red bocce balls are closer than the green is how many points are received. Okay. So however many of the closest color bocce balls are to the Polina before the next closest opposite color is how many points they get. So in this case, if there's one red ball closer before the next closest green ball, red will get 1 point. Okay. If it's 2, red would get 2 points. One team can score either 1 or up to 4 points within a given frame. Okay. And then the other team would receive 0 points. Simple math. And then we have a Google sheet that will automatically add up all the frames for our scorekeepers. So they can have it up on the scoreboard for you. Right, as you're using your measuring tape. So as the lead official is going to be in charge of the business end or the red end here, that will go over the Polina. So that in this specific instance is that tiny white ball in this picture. That's your pivot point, right? So you are going to take your line judge is going to take the other end of that to the fat or the closest part of that big bocce ball. Okay. You're gonna pull that over the top center of the polina, and that's where you're gonna pivot from and read the measurement. Coaches love if you call that measurement out loud so they can definitively know, okay, so this one is, and I love to read it in metric so you don't have to try to come up with what it is in on an English ruler. It makes it a lot easier. So you can call out what that measurement is, pivot to the next one, and then let them know what is the measurement on those other bocce balls that you are measuring. And at the end of it, you're able to call that score.
Sorry, technical difficulty. I apologize.
That's all right.
My computer is not cooperating. Come on, there we go. Sorry about that.
There's my technical assistant jumping all around. It's all right. So we're going to measure that from that polina. It always is measured from the polina over that top center, okay? And you pivot from there. Cheat way is they all have the lock button on them. So after you measure that closest one you think is closest, and you lock it, have that person pivot. And if they've got to pull out from that measuring tape, you know it's further. Still call the measure because the coaches are still going to want to know what that measurement is. And most of the time, the kids are also going to want to know. They're listening to know. And they'll call you out on it in a second if they don't hear it. Just some rule of thumbs as you're measuring. Take your time. And at any point, if you're looking at a set of bocce balls around a polina and you're ever in doubt, just measure it out. Say it in your head a million times. When in doubt, measure it out. We have some things in place here this year that you don't have to rush. Please take your time. Team captains can ask for a measurement. Coaches cannot. They can indicate to their captains that they should. The coaches are going to sit at center court and they may be saying things behind you, but it is not their role to call for the measurement. It is the students. Okay. So if any of the students ask for a measurement, they can ask for it at any point in time. Right. And they can ask for that. And if they're asking for it every single frame, turn around and ask that coach, be like, hey, can you let them know I don't need to measure every frame? And you can tell those students as well. You ultimately have the authority to say, hey, I can clearly see what this is. We don't need to measure this because sometimes it is a stall tactic. So if it is clear to you, you don't need to measure, you don't need to measure it. Okay. You have the judgment call on that as the official on the court. If it's close though, please do CYA on it, my friends. But if it isn't, go ahead and let them know that. So with the measuring that where I'm saying don't rush it, we have a rule in place this year that is different from last year. Along with our slide deck, we'll send you an updated just one pager of the rule changes we've had for this year. That'll be helpful. So if a coach is like, it wasn't that way last year, and you can be like, you're right, because it's different this year. And here it is. I say that aggressively, but most of our coaches are wonderful, amazing, fantastic people that will only come to you in joy. But if they come to you in some frustration, we want to give you the information that you need to be able to talk to them. So if at the end of a frame, you do need to do a measure to determine points, the time will stop. So please do a reminder to the table that's doing the time. You're like, hey, we're going to do a measurement, stop the time. So as you're doing the measures, time is stopped. Students should be transitioning. They're not waiting for you. They can move down. You measure, you determine the points, you call out the points, red 4, and after the score is called, then the time starts again. Okay. So take your time. That way we had heard a lot of things from folks of they're measuring and then we're losing time and we're trying to catch up. I don't want officials to rush. You guys want to get it right. This way you can measure, you can do that. And then the coaches and teams have the confidence they can move to the end and they can say, you know what, they took the time. We know who's going to get that next roll. And nobody lost any time on it. It's only going to happen at the end of a frame though. If you have to measure in the middle of a frame, time is going to continue to roll. Okay. But do not rush. So after you're done measuring, you're going to face a score table. You're going to go ahead and let them know. We're going to take that time out. We're going to stop the clock. or you're going to give that direction to when to go ahead and start the clock. Yep. We just went over that. You'll declare the score, and then that clock's going to start again. So at the end of a frame is finished when all 8 bocce balls have been rolled. And that's when you're going to determine the number of points. You will go ahead and you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either use your paddle and indicate the number in front of the paddle, or you can hold up a bocce ball of that color and let them know how many points is being awarded to that particular color. Let them know at the score table first, and then each end of the bocce court, just so everybody's in the know of what that score is. Okay. Say it with confidence, say it loud and proud, let them all know what that score is. And then all the bocce balls will roll down to the other end, and then we start a brand new frame. Right, ties. We talked a little bit about ties earlier. Should a tie occur during a frame? So team causes a tie and tries to break that tie. Okay. Close again, tries to break the tie. Sorry, that read really funky. So in the middle of a frame, so if Ashley is rolling and sets the bocce ball with the red, I roll up in with my green bocce ball to the exact same distance as Ashley. I will continue to be the out ball, and Ashley will continue to be the in ball until I can get closer. Matching her isn't good enough. I've got to beat her closeness to that bocce ball to be the in ball. So that's in the middle of a frame. Okay, so if they're exactly the same distance, whoever got there first is important. Okay. If it happens at the end of the frame, so say at the end of the frame, Ashley has her red bocce ball there, and I roll up and we're exactly the same distance, no points are awarded. Because now we can't determine who is actually closer. And it doesn't matter who got there first for points. It is null and void, and the team that had possession of the Polina at the start of that frame is who starts the Polina of the new frame. Okay. So you'll say null and void, no points awarded, we're equal distance from the Polina. Okay. It doesn't happen often, but it does occasionally occur. So at the end of 30 minutes, here's where I start to repeat myself. There are no ties in a bocce game. So if at the end of that 30 minutes, the score is tied, 1 extra frame must be played. I've hammered this with the coaches and our folks on our competition management webinar on Tuesday. Please be that extra line of defense for me that there are no tied games. So we have to break that tie. 1 extra frame is rolled. There's no time associated with it. It's just 1 frame, right? That's all we're worried about there. There are penalties in place if a game ends in a tie and is recorded as a tie for us. Then those 2 teams are both penalized. And they're penalized because they don't get that game to count on their official results. And the points that they accrue during that game are not attributed to them. So coming down to postseason, that can't, well, it could hurt or harm their hurt or help their win-loss record, but they don't get those points, which can help in those tiebreak situations when we're looking at postseason. We have 340 schools that are participating in a competitive level of unified bocce this year, which is going to shake out to close to 600 individual teams. We have some really tight leagues across the 38 leagues across the state, so nobody's going to want to give up those points or that win-loss. So if you can be that third line of defense, I greatly appreciate it. Talk about our game time and 2-minute warning. And that update didn't come across here, Ashley. This is that 12 points. 30 minutes or 16 points is whatever happens first for that total of a game. Thank you. There is a 2-minute warning point during the game that will happen. And at that point, if the frame is in play, that's the final frame. The announcer will come over and say, 2-minute warning, no new frames. That is the exact phrase that they will say. Okay. At that point, frame is in play, it's the final frame, whether it's the first bocce ball or only the Polina has been rolled, or if it's the last bocce ball. It does not matter. No new frames will be played. unless they're tied at the end of that frame. If the frame is starting, it is considered a start when the Polina leaves that individual's hand for the first time, even if it doesn't land. So if we're getting close and it is a 202 and I hustle up and I let it go, as long as I get it out of my hand, it counts. That frame will entirely be played out. Whether it lands in a good spot or not, it left my hand. So that indicates we're going to play out that frame. Okay. If it doesn't, and I've got to go through my routine and I don't let it go, the game is done. Okay. So you're going to wave off the game, say the game is complete, shake hands if they're done with their match for the day, or we're going to move on to the next game. Okay. Golden frame. So this is important, and I want to stress on here so everybody knows that this is an optional thing. Golden frames are optional. So we have tiebreaker frames for a game. We have a golden frame if a set is tied. Ashley has 1 win, I have 1 win, and we want to have bragging rights. On the official schedule for our match, there's only 2 games. So we want to be able to go back to our schools and say who won. This is an optional thing. Both of our coaches agree that we want to play it out. 1 frame. If a team is tied and, like I said, that 1-1, they will pick 4 players from 1 team. So if they've got 2 teams, they've got to choose which team they're going to pull those folks from. It's 2 athletes and 2 partners, always. You'll do the coin toss. You'll play the frame out, and the winner is the winner of that match. It'll go recorded on the score sheet, but it does not count towards their overall win-loss record as a game. We're only counting complete games on our win-loss tracker for the season. Okay. All right. So here's just some random things that can happen or things that have popped up over the years, so you know kind of what to do should these things happen. So if a bocce ball hits the backboard, if it hits any point in that court, it's in play. They're not a dead ball. It's got to leave the court. If it bounces out and it goes, yeah, then it's a dead ball. Just not because it hits the back pipe there of the bocce court is it ever, it's still in play. So once the Polina is in play, you play it wherever it lands after that. We're chasing the Polina. So they said that first initial one, if it's within a foot, you can move it a foot away from the side. After that, wherever it goes is fair game in that court. If the bocce ball bounces out of the court, it's dead. It doesn't come back. Just remove it and it's done. If the Polina bounces out of the court, the whole frame is done. Okay. At the end of the frame, and the bocce and the Polina are touching, there are no extra points given in some community spaces. If you're touching the Polina, bonus points are given. We don't give bonus points. It's straight up. It is what it is. However many of your color bocce balls are closer than the other person's bocce balls is how many points are awarded. And of course, at the end of each game, sign the electronic score sheet, which will be you typing your name onto that score sheet. And then that is an indicator for us that closes out that game. Here's some things to take into consideration. So things to keep in mind throughout all that gameplay. Of course, you are here because I know you're going to pay attention. You're taking time out of your very busy days to be here and learn this information, which I greatly appreciate. So we're going to pay attention. Please be completely impartial. And I don't mean just towards the team of every player on that team is a player on every team. And it doesn't matter if they're a unified partner or an athlete, call it straight up the same way you would for everybody. Make your calls consistent. If you're getting halfway through the game and you catch yourself measuring the opposite way, just keep measuring how you were for consistency's sake. Okay. The biggest thing there will be that you're continuously and consistently measuring. All your judgment calls are final. So be confident in that. Use your rule book. There will be a rule book on the score table, and it will have the 1-pager with all of our new rules updates for you. That'll help guide you as well. You have the ability to call an official timeout if you feel like you need to confirm anything at the officials table. So if something pops up or somebody gives you a random question, or you feel a need for whatever reason, call an official timeout, do what you need to do, and then you can start time again. Okay. If you're unsure of a call because a really random situation pops up, go ahead and take an official timeout and be able to check the rule book or check with
What you doing, bud?
or check with somebody that might be there to help you out. There we go. Perfect. And then listen for the score table. They're going to be that right hand person to you that you're going to be working with, because they're going to be managing the score, the time, connecting with you on what's shaken out on each side of the court. If there are two teams and two teams playing, there will be two courts happening. So you're going to have some activity happening within that gym. That's a little bit more if there was a one-to-one happening. You're only responsible for the one court you were on, though. Let me be really clear on that. All right, and then our coaches. All right, so each team is permitted to have one 60-second timeout per game. That clock stops for 60 seconds. The coach must request a timeout to the official. So this is not the students. Students get measures, coaches get timeouts. In previous years, they've had to have possession to be able to call a timeout. They no longer need that. Okay, so that is new this year. They can call a timeout whenever they want to. Once the official announces the timeout, the coach can go to their players. Timeouts are allowed at any point in the game, and the time will restart once the next bocce ball or palina is rolled. Okay. So if you're wondering, how do I call a timeout and how do I make it look official? Here you go. You're going to move center court, just making sure everybody can let you know where you're at. Announce that timeouts have been made. When there's about 5 seconds left, give the coaches an indicator. Be like, all right, we need to wrap this up so we can get things moving, get everybody back in place, and then call for the roll so we can get and then indicate to the timer when to restart the clock. Again, this doesn't come into play too often, but something to definitely keep in mind. It's more prominent in some leagues than others. At a 7-minute mark, with 7 minutes left on the time, if a team appears to slow down or delay the game, they're trying to run the clock and they have changed their pace of which they are rolling to retain that lead, an official can do a couple of things. They're going to first give the head coach and the team a warning saying, hey, I'm noticing your kids are significantly slowing down. It becomes pretty obvious when they are doing this. After that warning is given, if it happens again, the offending team will forfeit that frame and the opposing team gets 4 points. Oh, you're good, Ashley. You can go. So the official can keep that pace of play flowing for the game as much as possible. We have run into some cases where we'll have some kiddos that may or may not be ready to go or want to go for any particular reason. So how you're going to manage that pace of play is after your points have been indicated and you're ready to start that next frame, or you're in the middle of that frame, you're going to prompt them, say, hey, red is in, green's going to roll. And you've indicated to that team it's green's turn to roll. After about 10 seconds, you're going to give another prompt that says, all right, red is in, green, it's your roll. It's number 2. Then we'll give them another 10 seconds, and then we're going to give them that third prompt. We're going to say, all right, I'm going to declare a 10-second runoff, and this is, you're seeing not any progress is being made. We're not making an effort to get into a court. We're having a lot of chatter happen amongst the team. I'm going to give you a 10-second runoff, and then you're going to give that visual cue similar to a basketball official. Let them know 10 seconds. You're going to start your 10-second countdown, and if it's not rolled after you're done doing that, the ball is dead. So we're looking for an intention to try to roll that ball. Okay, that's what you're looking for. So if it's not rolled by that point, they're getting a total of 30 seconds to roll that ball. So we want to see that happen by then. If it's not by that point, it's dead, you move it out of that location. Coaches' chairs. So your new best friends are going to sit relatively close to you. They are going to sit at center court. So right at that 30-foot line. They can stand or they can sit, either way, but they can't just pace around. Okay, so if they're becoming a distraction, you can let them know that they need to sit down. Uh, you may come into a gym where they're on either side of the score table. That is also fine. They just got to stay in their space. Things that they can't do is they can't provide instruction to their teams once the game is started, except for timeouts. This is the hardest thing for them. They have all been taught this, they know this, and they have every urge to do it. They don't. So if they happen to do that, you got to let them know that there is a no coaching rule. That they get their warning, and then after that, the ball is going to be considered dead and it's moved from the court. Okay. They can say good roll, nice roll, great job. They can be the biggest cheerleaders. They don't have to be completely silent, but they can't give strategic direction. We want that to happen amongst the team itself. Okay. All right, so you can just see a little indicator here. The score table, dependent on the layout of the gym, can be at center court as well with the chairs on the sides. And then you're going to have your students' chairs that are set up four in a line on the end of each service area. All right, just a couple special considerations here. So if you have anybody that's visually impaired, we have indicated to our coaches that they should let you know if any of their students attending have any type of special needs or considerations here. If anybody is visually impaired, somebody can help that person into the court, and they can have another teammate stand behind the Polina and call their name. That can also be you. So talking to that coach and say, do you want it to be me or do you want it to be a partner that's going to call their name? They're going to call their name to indicate where the Polina is. And once the athlete or that individual rolls that ball, then that person's going to step out of the court so they're not in the way of what's coming down at them. Okay. If they're hearing impaired, we've got a couple of things already in place. So we have that visual cue with our paddle, and then also their teammates are able to prompt them, touch them, indicate to them that it would be their turn to roll as well. If anybody needs a ramp, so you may see ramps that occur in a couple variations. Somebody may be in a wheelchair, somebody may be in a walker, somebody may have a cane of some sort of assistive device, but ramps are to be used for students that don't have the physical ability to roll it on their own for whatever reason. So no mechanical aids can be used. The big thing with these folks is that they need to release the ball on their own with the ramp. Okay. So the schools that are coming and have that individual that needs to use the ramp are responsible to provide it. It is not the host school's responsibility. Is whoever has the team that has the individual with that ramp needs to bring their own ramp. And then they cannot cross the foul line. The foul line for the ramp, however, is that 40-foot or that 20-foot for us, the dotted line on the court, cannot cross that. For our folks that may be in a wheelchair and they have a short ramp, the ramp is an extension of them. So no part of their person, chair, or ramp can cross that dotted 20-foot mark if they are utilizing a ramp. Okay. All right. So we are going to send this out to you. There's a lot to read to people straight out, but we talked about some of these through each of the slides. These are the main areas where we have rules updates. So just giving you some indicators of, hey, where were some things a little bit different this year than in previous years? Rosters have been extended, the time management piece of the timeouts, and then also the time stoppage at the end of frames that we're going to measure. The ending of games in a tie, that's more of just a clarity of you don't do it, please don't do it. Uniforms, making sure folks are in proper uniform at all times is really important. We've come into some instances where folks are, hey, it's bocce, wore my Uggs today. They need to be dressed appropriately to play a sport. So their proper uniform is their polo that is provided to them. All the teams are wearing same color bottoms. They're not wearing jeans. They're not having one person in khaki and everybody else in black or another color. And they are all pants. Nobody's in shorts. And as far as shoes, it is if you wouldn't wear it in gym class, you shouldn't wear it to bocce type of situation. And that might be loose of as a former phys ed teacher of sneakers are good. Things that aren't legal are the Uggs, the Hey Dudes, the Vans, the slides, and Crocs, even in sport mode, do not qualify as proper shoes for a sport. Okay. And then legal rules, which is just some clarity on here. So we'll make sure that that is sent out with you as well. Perfect. All right, so we'll go over some questions. If anybody has any questions, I know I dropped a lot of information to you. As a reminder, in the slide deck is a link to our officials training webinar as well, or recording. But I'd love for you to watch that video, watch it a couple of times. The liaison that's responsible for your school is also a wonderful resource. So if you are a brand new school, you will have a rep at your first game from SOPA that will assist you. But if you have an ability to go to a practice prior to, it's definitely going to help. Thanks for showing that right there, Ashley. And then if you have any questions, to contact that liaison and say, hey, what do I do if this? And they're that direct resource for you as well. Okay. All right, let's see.
We had a lot of very good questions. A couple of were quick ones I could answer, and some I did not because I thought they were important for everyone to hear.
Okay.
We definitely have a lot of good questions in here.
Okay. I'm going to start at the top.
Yep.
Where you said there's good questions. They're all good questions, so I don't want to take the time with questions.
Yes, some were just easy. I could type to you quick, but some I wanted to get everybody to hear.
All right, so from Annette, if the Polina rolls past the last line and bounces back into the play area, is that a good roll or not? The answer is no. So it has to land in that initial play area between that 30 and the 50-foot mark on the initial roll. No bounce backs. Okay.
No bounce backs. Okay.
No bounce backs. So yes, that was a good question. Yes. So are they allowed to roll the ball with two hands? Yes, they can roll the ball with two hands. So as long as they're below the waist, right? They could even do a push. Some of our folks don't have the strength to do it with one hand. Two is okay, right? All right, here's another one. If a team is winning the frame currently, but the losing team makes a foul and hits the ball and we can't replace the bocce balls, is the frame still null and void? The answer, unfortunately, is yes. It is null and void because we can't replace those bocce balls. So if you can replace them in some sort of confidence, in full confidence, replace those bocce balls. But if you cannot, then the frame would be null and void. Yep. That's one of those instances where those coaches aren't going to be particularly happy, but is the fairest way. If we can't put those bocce balls exactly where they were before, we got to start fresh. Team, technically, you're not wrong. Okay.
Yeah, Joe and I had a little more conversation about that.
That's okay.
I've never, in almost 4 years, I've never seen anyone intentionally pick up the wrong color or release above their waist intentionally. Have we seen it happen accidentally? Absolutely. Somebody gets confused, they get the box, they get excited. We've definitely seen it happen on accident. But I can't say we've ever seen it intentionally happen to change the score of a game.
Yep.
Yet. Now that I've said that, we're gonna jinx it for this season and it's gonna happen.
I only have confidence we're going to have utmost sportsmanship in all of our 38 leagues. Officials measure is close. We don't want to waste time. We ask the clock to stop while we measure. Thanks. Ashley answered that one. So good question, Annette. So you measure whatever you feel like you need to. When in doubt, measure it out. At the end of a frame only is when the time will stop for a measure. Okay. Don't let any coach pressure you to, hey, we're losing time. Well, maybe you should have rolled a little bit better earlier, but it's not your job to rush. It's your job to measure and do your job well. So to say, coach, I got it. We're only going to measure at the end of the frame per the rules. Okay. And it's just straight and objective. That's the rule.
Lauren, there's one a little bit above that from Megan Schreiner about if they throw the ball above their waist and it hits other balls, the frame is null and void. But for all other fouls, the balls can go back in place. I didn't just if you wanted to clarify on that one.
Yeah. So because the ball has already been released, and above the waist is that foul. In any cases that bocce balls hit any other bocce balls in contention, my guidance is null and void. It's the fairest way to go ahead and do that. All right, let's keep on going. Yep, we'll share this out. I know you're all experts now, but we'll still share it with you so you can show all your friends as well. Can players intentionally knock a polina or bocce ball? Absolutely. They can spock the heck out of it. Bocce balls are going to be going in a lot of different directions. You're going to see some folks that are going to fling it here pretty hard and some soft touches. For the golden frame, is there a coin toss? Yes, there is. For clarification, if a frame goes null and void and subsequent frame switches to the opposite end or sub frame, it will go to the opposite end. Yep. So the question is, since I kind of mumbled through it for folks, so in a frame, if it ends up null and void, which end do the bocce balls end up going to? They go to the opposite end. So whichever direction they were rolling, we're going to start at that opposite end. If we have to call a null and void frame, we don't call the bocce balls back. We just start at the other end and start rolling.
And the team that started with the polina of the frame, that's null and void, they start with the polina again at this next frame. That one came through as like an individual question.
Sure. Okay. Game players on the opposite end come to the other end to meet players in the middle of the court. Yep, Ashley did that one.
Yeah, you can get up and move for timeouts. I've seen confusion in the past where the coach thought they had to talk to the four up here and then run down and talk to the four at the other end, all in that 60 seconds. You can, but you'll stress yourself out more. So you can have the players come together and talk to them in one place during the timeout.
Right. Rules. Yep. So good question here, Annette. So teams cannot. So once an individual steps into the court to roll, nobody can talk to them. So it's at that point in time that it has to be quiet. That includes their teammates that are sitting about 1.5 feet away from them. They can say, okay, roll the ball. They can do a prompt, but they can't go, hey, Roy, roll it over there. That's at that point, it's coaching. So they get same. So they're going to get a warning first, and then the second time it happens is when they're going to get the foul called, and they're going to get the points against them. Okay. Perfect. And then as far as setup for matches, before each match, the SOPA representatives will be talking to the competing schools and making sure everything's in place. So if there is a need for supporting officials or whatnot, they're going to help the schools work that out and make sure that the right supports are there for that match. Dokes. All right. Any other questions I can field from anybody? And remember, this isn't the only time you can ask. So you can take some time and take this all in, because I know we're over time right now. So I don't want to take anybody else's time here. But take it in, review the video that's linked into the slide deck that you will receive tomorrow. And then contact the SOPA liaison, and that will come from the SOPA liaison. So you'll know, well, who is that? It will come from your direct liaison, any questions that you might have. And then if you stump them, they'll come and find me. But appreciate all of your time here today and look forward to some really great bocce happening all season. Thanks so much, everybody.
Roy and Annette, I know you guys both had some specific additional questions. If you want to hang around, we can definitely get you guys the answers that you need, Roy and Annette, and anyone else. I'll stop the recording now.